Hello and welcome to the 31st episode of Business Litigation TV. I'm your host, Jesse David Eisenberg, and this is the internet's most passionate show about business litigation. Today we're going to talk about your rights. Okay, not the average person's rights, but your rights as a business owner and a business manager. Or a business manager, I should say. So it's fairly simple. You know, people never have a complaint about the business they're a part of until it isn't making money, they're not getting what they think is a fair share of the profits, something along those lines. And they want to know, they being, let's define they is who aren't in full control of the business. Okay, so you're talking about your minority shareholders, the limited partner in a partnership, someone who's not one of the managing members of an LLC, something along those lines, right? So they want to know what are their rights, and what happens if they don't agree with the decision making. So the first thing you want to look to, every LLC, partnership, corporation really should have an operating agreement or some kind of bylaws, something that these shareholders, business partners, all of that are held to. Now, usually it's pretty simple. A lot of them say, if you're not getting along, you either have a right to dissolve the business, sell your shares, something along those lines. And, what happens though if there's not an agreement? And this is, again, let's harken back. This is contract law. The first thing you always look to is there a contract? If there's not a contract, then you have to look to what is the actual law. And there's the business corporation law for corporations. There's New York partnership law for partnership disputes, just partnerships in general, and there's a limited liability law as well. And they kind of have your baseline, okay? But it's always recommended, and it might even be, it probably is. I don't know off the top of my head because I just don't right now. It's probably required you guys have it, that there are agreements, but also, the law understands that doesn't always happen. So what do you do if you don't have that agreement? Like I said, you look at what the baseline is, okay? There's always a baseline of what happens. And the point of partnership agreements, whatever, is to change the baseline, to add to the baseline, something along those lines, so you understand what your rights are and what you want to happen, because you get to choose. When you're starting a business, you get to choose what happens if there's a partnership dispute. You get to choose what happens with profit sharing. You get to choose what happens if someone wants to dissolve the corporation. It really can be your choice, which is why you should always have an attorney draft your agreements. So you get to, you understand what you want and you get to think it through. Because if you wait until the day that you're really unhappy and you want to dissolve it and you find out, hey, you can't do it, so along those lines, it's usually too late, okay? So, like I said, the first thing, guys, this I know is an internet show and I'm going to make mistakes, so I'm going to move on. Couple other things to keep in mind is, again, because this is contract law, have an attorney when you're starting the business. Make sure you have an attorney show you your rights if you're just joining a business. And when it's time to break up the businesses never last forever, though some of them last hundreds of years. But what are your rights when that happens, when the business breaks up or you sell it? That's another big key. What happens if the business gets sold or bought out, or you want to buy another business? What does that look like? What are your rights then? All right, so always be thinking about that. And just a normal disclaimer that I always do. Read before you sign, okay? It's always too late after you sign, so read before. Now, lastly, I'm going to talk about what happens if someone is not listening to the agreement or the law. Well, that's when you get basically, if you're a corporation, you do what's a derivative suit. You sue as a shareholder, whatever, on behalf of the corporation. And there's different versions for an LLC or a partnership as well. But that's when you have to start a lawsuit and say, listen, they're breaking the agreement. and they're stealing or they're doing something that's not in the interest of the corporation. So this is convoluted and complicated because there's different types of businesses out there, and I'll be talking to that more later, I'm sure, on an episode. But most of everything always boils down to, in business, what does the agreement say? If I could leave you guys with one thing ever from watching my show, there's one thing you guys only remember one thing. Remember the contract controls. So do it right, okay, guys? All right, guys. Thanks for listening. As always, it's a pleasure. Take care.